Discover the incredible moment that transformed a husband's betrayal into an inspiring lesson. Jamie's heart raced as she sat on the edge of the bed Tom's side, now chilled and vacant. Silence enveloped her, a stark contrast to the chaotic whirlwind of emotions swirling inside. The night had never felt so heavy, so relentlessly oppressive. She had learned to handle crises daily, patience in pain, frantic families, but this was different. Betrayal sliced deeper than any scalpel. Tom's infidelity snatched at her insides like a predator, leaving her feeling stripped bare and exposed, uncertain of her worth. The life she'd meticulously built now felt like a house of cards, crumbling with the draft of his lies. Restlessness gnawed at her. She swung her legs off the bed and wandered into the attic, searching for anything to anchor her swirling thoughts. Dust motes danced in the beam of light from a narrow window as she rummaged through boxes, artifacts of her past. Finally, her fingers grazed a box adorned with faded stickers of a life long gone. It belonged to her late grandmother. Inside, she unearthed time-worn letters, each revealing a story of loss, resilience, and transformation. As Jamie sifted through the remnants of her grandmother's life, photos of a woman who had once stood tall against heartbreak, she felt an echo of connection. Her grandmother, a nurse who had thrived despite a life filled with setbacks, had faced her demons head-on. Jamie's heart clenched at the sight of a worn diploma, the words nursing excellence bold and triumphant. Did she possess the same spirit? Could she reclaim her shattered dreams just as her grandmother had? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With fresh determination coursing through her veins, Jamie decided she would apply for an accelerated nursing program. The thought swirled with the relentless demands of single parenting, juggling lectures with homework crises and dinner preparations. Each responsibility loomed like a heavy weight on her chest. Yet, with every passing lecture and clinical rotation, her forgotten passion flickered back to life. She remembered why she chose nursing: an intrinsic desire to care for others, a calling that surged through her and sparked a flicker of hope in her heart. But just as she began to feel empowered, Tom re-entered the fray, his remorse palpable as he reached out, begging for a second chance. As he poured out his apologies, Jamie felt a tempest brewing inside her, a cacophony of hurt, doubt, and a wavering desire for the man who had betrayed her. Could she trust him again? The possibility lingered like a shadow over her newfound strength, taunting her with choices colored by uncertainty. With her grandmother's unwavering spirit whispering from the past, she confronted Tom not merely about his actions, but the existential turmoil they had forced upon her. Would forgiving him lead her back into a painful cycle? Or would denying him the chance finally release her from the shackles of doubt? As she stared into Tom's troubled eyes, a storm brewed within her, the air thick with anticipation. Jamie stood at the crossroads of her existence. The decision she faced blazed with intensity, demanding her to confront just how much she truly deserved. Would she reclaim her narrative or fall prey to the comfortable familiarity of what she once believed was love? A crucial moment hung in the air, ensuring the future remained tantalizingly unpredictable. The weight of the moment pressed down on Jamie as she processed Tom's desperate apologies. His words washed over her like a tide she was reluctant to let in, threatening to pull her back into the familiar shores of their shared past. Memories flooded her mind: the laughter, the love, but starkly now, the betrayal. A part of her ached to rekindle what they once had, yet another part pulsated with the newfound clarity she was grasping. Drawing a shuddering breath, Jamie forced herself to confront her true feelings. Trust, once the bedrock of their relationship, felt like a crumbling foundation under her feet. She couldn't shake the image of his lies weaving through their lives like a sonorous echo. With each syllable he uttered, the flicker of hope inside her was met with a flood of doubt. What was his remorse truly rooted in? Was it guilt, shame, or a genuine desire for redemption? "Do you even understand what you've done, Tom?" she replied, her voice steady despite her heart racing. "What this has cost me." His shoulders dropped, and for a moment, she saw not the man who had betrayed her, but the boy who once overflowed with potential. The memories were bittersweet, but they could no longer blind her to her own reality. Jamie realized this moment was not just about Tom, it was about her resurrection. Like the nurses she admired, she needed to master the art of healing, not just for those she cared for at work but for herself. As she searched her mind for the right words, Jamie remembered those letters from her grandmother. Each letter encapsulated resilience, embracing the struggle as a transformative experience rather than a shackling defeat. Did she not owe herself the same understanding? The clarity of her grandmother's wisdom illuminated her vast potential, igniting a single thought: she could choose her path, irrespective of Tom's mistakes. "You need to understand," she continued, more resolutely now, "I can't go back. Not to who we were. I've started to reclaim my life, my career. You had your chance to support me, and instead, you shattered the trust one was building. I deserve more than this." The words felt liberating, breaking free of the chains of self-doubt that had held her hostage during Tom's betrayal. With every sentence, she felt herself shedding the naivety that had once wrapped itself around her heart. The hushed air was thick with unspoken understanding as Tom's gaze fell, the once desperate plea now replaced with acceptance. Jamie felt the shift inside her. The decision was no longer about Tom, but a declaration of her own power. She was no longer merely playing the role of the woman scorned. She was becoming the architect of her future. After Tom left, the silence echoed louder than before. Yet, within that void, Jamie felt a blossoming resolve take root. The space where doubt had flourished was now filled with ambition and fire. She returned to her books, her clinical rotations, and the responsibilities of motherhood, infused with a sense of purpose she had long forgotten. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, Jamie honed her skills, rediscovering parts of herself that had lain dormant. She spent late nights studying, sacrificing sleep for her dreams. Her path was now lit with the determination to sculpt a future that showcased her strengths, rather than wallowing in her misfortunes. However, just when she was beginning to feel whole, an unexpected twist arose. A shadow from her past was about to resurface, threatening to disrupt her newfound equilibrium. An unexpected visitor brought with them a revelation that would force her to confront not only Tom's past actions but her own sense of worth, complicating her rapidly evolving story. As she stood in her kitchen, staring out the window, a sense of foreboding washed over her. Could she truly handle whatever was coming next, or would this be another test of her resolve? The question lingered, and Jamie felt the pulse of her own uncertain future quicken. The days passed in a blur of activity and introspection for Jamie. She poured herself into her studies with a ferocity that felt foreign, almost exhilarating. Nights spent with textbooks sprawled across the dining table became her sanctuary, an escape from the whirlwind of emotions threatening to engulf her. Each page turned was a declaration of defiance against the past, a small victory against the echoes of betrayal that still haunted her. Yet, as her world began to stabilize, the unexpected visitor forced her to confront the walls she thought she had fortified. The knock at the door felt like a thunderclap amidst the rising quiet, sending waves of anxiety rippling through her. When she opened it, Lily, her childhood best friend, stood there, anxiety etched across her features, eyes shimmering with an urgency Jamie hadn't seen before. "Jam," she breathed, stepping into the warmth of the kitchen but leaving a chill of unresolved tension in the air. "We need to talk." The minute Lily began to speak, Jamie felt her heart tighten in her chest. The conversation turned quickly, spiraling towards Tom and the remnants of their shared life that Jamie was still piecing back together. Jamie listened, caught between the desire to protect herself and a nagging curiosity about what her friend had to share. Lily spoke of Tom's struggles post-betrayal, a whirlwind of chaos that replaced the once carefree man Jamie had known. Stories spilled out, not to justify Tom's actions, but to shine a light on the darker corners of his psyche, areas which had shown more depth than Jamie had ever realized. As she absorbed the details, Jamie couldn't help but feel a twinge of empathy mingling with her resentment. "But he didn't just hurt you, Jamie," Lily said, catching her attention. "He's hurting too. I know that doesn't make it right, but it's the reality. What you had together was beautiful, and what he's done is, well, it's devastating. But healing doesn't come from avoiding the past." Jamie felt the weight of those words like stones settling in her stomach. The conversation unfurled layers of the past she hadn't acknowledged, layers she had tucked away under a blanket of anger. Somehow, amid her relentless pursuit of moving forward, she'd been avoiding the spectrum of her own emotions. "Do you think I should talk to him?" Jamie asked cautiously, the question hovering in the air like an unanswered prayer. Lily paused, assessing Jamie's face, recognizing the whirlwind of internal conflict. "That's a decision only you can make," she replied. "But if you're asking whether it might help you heal, I think it's worth considering." The suggestion felt foreign but tantalizing. Could there be a way to find closure without reopening old wounds? Or would revisiting the past simply expose her to more pain? A feeling of unease settled over her like a heavy shroud, tempos of uncertainty blending seamlessly with the determination that had surged forth in the weeks since Tom's departure. Days turned to sleepless nights as Jamie wrestled with the implications of Lily's visit. She sought counsel within herself, the voices of her grandmother's letters echoing in her mind. They encouraged her to embrace her struggles, to scavenge for strength in the most unnerving of challenges. Yet, in the moment of decision, the thought of facing Tom again, the man who had shattered her world, was daunting. What could she say? How could she confront the memories without collapsing? But perhaps somewhere in the act of confronting him, she would uncover fragments of herself that had slipped through the cracks. As she paced her living room, preparing herself for what might come next, her determination solidified. If she could wield the strength she had discovered, then perhaps she could reshape this encounter into another step of her growth. A sudden ring of her phone interrupted her thoughts, echoing loudly in the otherwise quiet room. Jamie glanced at the screen and froze. The name sent a rush of heat through her, each heartbeat amplifying the question looming in the background: would she be able to face Tom, or would the conversation deepen her internal fracture? Heart racing, she answered the call, bracing herself for whatever awaited on the other end. "Jamie?" The voice was unmistakable, a familiar tone dissected by hope and regret. "Tom," she said, her own voice steady yet fragile, poised at the tipping point of resolution. "Can we talk?" In that instant, everything shifted. The trajectory of Jamie's life was about to pivot again, throwing her into the depths of confrontation. Would she find solace in the familiar, or would it unravel the very tapestry she had begun to weave anew? The air surrounding Jamie felt electric as she held the phone to her ear, the weight of Tom's words immediately dousing her previous determination with uncertainty. "Can we talk?" It was more than a request, it was a tremor in the ground beneath her feet, reviving all the anger and hurt she had buried beneath her burgeoning resolve. She inhaled deeply, her breathing a careful counterpoint to the chaos racing through her mind. "Yes," she said, surprising herself with the firmness of her voice. "Where?" In that moment, Jamie realized she was not merely stepping into a conversation, she was stepping towards an encounter that could redefine her. As they agreed to meet at a cafe near her apartment, she felt a mixture of dread and resolute purpose. The walls she had carefully constructed over the weeks would need to stand firm against the tidal wave of emotions threatening to pour out in the wake of their meeting. Preparing for the coffee shop offering a sanctuary filled with the rich aroma of brewed coffee and the soft hum of distant conversations, she donned her favorite jacket, a comforting layer that resonated with stability. In the mirror, she caught a glimpse of a determined figure who had evolved from the girl who once relied on Tom for validation. Each decision she made now was a testament to her growth, not merely a reaction to her past. The cafe was bustling with the energy of its patrons. A medley of laughter, conversation, and the sound of chairs scraping against the floor filled the air. Yet, within that chaos, Jamie felt oddly centered as she chose a seat near the window, its transparent boundaries symbolizing her willingness to confront the truth. When Tom arrived, the familiar silhouette brought a torrent of conflicting emotions to the surface. He looked different, more worn, the weight of his actions etched into the lines of his face. Jamie wrestled with the impulse to retreat, to shield herself from the vulnerability of this moment. But as he approached, she steadied herself. She was here to take the reins of her own narrative. "Hey," he greeted, his voice laced with a blend of regret and uncertainty. She nodded, noticing how his eyes flickered with memories of times past, moments full of laughter and connection now shadowed by betrayal. "Hey," she replied, struggling to keep her voice steady. "Thanks for meeting me." Tom settled across from her, the silence heavy with unspoken questions. She could see him grappling with the truth, his guilt palpable, but this was Jamie's moment to seize control. Each heartbeat felt synchronously thrilling and terrifying, like standing on the edge of an unexpected cliff. "I've thought about what happened a lot," Jamie began, pushing past the initial waves of emotion that threatened to upend her resolve. "And I'm really not here to rehash the past, but I feel I need to understand why." Tom's gaze met hers, and for an instant, they were beyond the hurt that divided them. "I made mistakes, Jamie. I lost sight of what mattered and I didn't respect you. I don't expect forgiveness, I just want to explain." The words broke the dam of silence and invited a myriad of memories flooding back, of their shared laughter, the dreams they crafted together, and the abruptness of everything falling apart. But instead of clenching her fists in frustration, Jamie took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth, the reckoning she had unwittingly sought. "What did you think would happen?" she asked, her voice steady, masking the urge to collapse into anger or sadness. "What did you think you'd gain by betraying our love?" His answer wasn't just another attempt at justification, it was an unraveling of the man she thought she knew, revealing layers of fear and insecurity, exposing the crux of his choices. As they delved deeper into the conversation, Jamie felt fragments of her identity piecing together amid the chaos. The passion and ambition she once thought dimmed by the betrayal were surging to the forefront. She realized that steering this conversation was within her grasp, and with each revelation shared, her understanding of both herself and Tom began to crystallize. Yet, just as the air began to clear, the tension shifted again. An instinctual urgency burrowed deep inside her. There were still questions unanswered, threads of this encounter still lingering in the air, waiting to be woven into something deeper. "Is it too late for us?" Tom asked, his eyes searching hers, filled with unspoken hope. In that moment, Jamie stared into the abyss of their fractured connection, the prospect of rekindling something that might never be the same weighing heavily on her heart. Would she allow his yearning to redefine their future, or would this be an opportunity to explore what a life unfettered by Tom truly looked like? Her mind raced, grappling with the implications of the choice that lay ahead, one that could either stifle her growth or propel her into uncharted territory. The thrill of that uncertainty painted her resolve anew. She could feel the tide of change rising within her, an acknowledgement that this conversation was far from the end. Instead, it marked the beginning of an introspection that could lead her down paths she had yet to imagine. "Maybe," she began slowly, tension wrapping around her words, "it's not about whether it's too late, but about what we're willing to do moving forward." As she spoke, Jamie felt the magnitude of the decision before her. Would she reshape her future based on a past punctured by heartbreak, or would she seize this opportunity to redefine her resolution entirely? With a deep breath, she prepared to navigate the churning waters of hope and fear, uncertainty and possibility. What path would she choose? And how far was she willing to go to reclaim the life she had almost forgotten? The cafe's warm atmosphere faded into a blur as she focused on Tom's hopeful expression. Jamie's heart raced, caught in a tangle of nostalgia and the necessity of creating a boundary firmly drawn in the sand. Moving forward means defining what we want, not just what we used to have, she clarified, her voice strong yet calm. Tom's expression shifted, the flicker of hope dimmed by the weight of reality settling on their conversation. "I get that. But, can we rebuild?" Jamie? Can I earn your trust back?" The tremor in his voice reflected the tremor of her inner world, a storm teetering on the brink of upheaval. Jamie searched Tom's eyes, seeking the depth of sincerity in his desire. But buried beneath that yearning was a flicker of fear, not just of losing her again, but of facing the daunting task of reconciliation. "Tom," she said after a pause, "trust isn't just given back. It's built with consistent actions over time." As those words resonated, Jamie felt the stirring of clarity within herself. It wasn't merely about Tom redeeming himself, it was about her understanding what trust truly meant to her, how it formed the bedrock of any relationship. She'd spent years bending to others' definitions, and now she needed to carve out her own. What would that look like? Tom asked, his forehead creased, genuinely engaged. She appreciated his willingness to listen, even if it came tinged with desperation. "It means respecting my space and my choices. It means you don't revert to old habits, expecting me to forgive without seeing the effort." Each word crystallized her demands, knitting together a vision of her needs. "I need to know that the person sitting across from me now isn't the same man who walked away." Jamie noticed the faintest flicker of recognition in Tom's eyes, not the kind of realization that would make everything alright, but the understanding that change would require more than just words. It took courage to expose their relationship's raw edges, yet Jamie felt an unfamiliar sensation blooming within her, a potent blend of empowerment and self-respect. As their conversation continued, Jamie noticed that familiar flicker of passion return, a flame long extinguished by pain. She recalled moments when they both sparked off inspiration, sharing dreams and plans for the future that would never come to fruition. But now, rather than lament those lost opportunities, she felt compelled to redefine what growth meant, not only in their dynamic, but also in her own ambitions. "Being apart has taught me a lot, Tom. I want to focus more on my career now." The intent in her voice bore the weight of a new commitment. "I've had projects I set aside, thinking they weren't important." The glimmer of motivation lit her spirit, warmth growing in the realization that ambition and self-identity could rise from the ashes of betrayal. "I'm ready to diverge from our shared path, to step into my own light." Tom listened intently, a mix of admiration and regret swirling in his gaze. "I see that," he replied slowly, and in that moment, Jamie felt seen, not as a reflection of their past, but as a burgeoning individual willing to confront her own future. "Yes, and that means I need to make choices based on what fuels my growth. It's not just about us anymore." The weight of her decision resonated deeply. It offered a swirl of exhilaration and trepidation, an uncharted journey unfurling before her. The reality settled in, neither of them speaking for a moment, each reflecting on the shifting sands of their relationship. They had come together to confront their history, yet as the conversation progressed, Jamie realized the most significant shift was occurring within her. "Then I support you," Tom finally said, his voice steadying. "I want you to chase those dreams." But beneath that support, a lingering question hung heavy: could he truly let her go if that meant flourishing apart? As she grappled with the duality of independence and shared connection, a thought crystallized in Jamie's mind. This moment was not simply about reconciling their past, but about forging paths intertwining yet distinct. Yet, a powerful sense of gravity dulled the gloss of their newfound understanding. Was she ready to confront the uncomfortable possibility of letting go completely? What if stepping into her dreams meant leaving Tom behind, not just emotionally but physically as well? With uncertainty tightening its grip, Jamie took a breath, conscious of the tension permeating the cafe air. "How do you view us, Tom? Can you accept a future where our paths might diverge indefinitely?" The question hung heavily, an uneasy challenge that demanded honesty from both of them. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, Jamie sensed the shift. The culmination of their conversation had taken her to a precipice that demanded her next bold step. What would she choose, a singular journey of hope and ambition, or the comfort of shared history with its woven complexities? The weight of her decision hung palpably in the air, the next chapter of her story waiting to be written. Jamie felt the weight of Tom's gaze, sensing the depth of uncertainty in the air. Her heart thudded loudly against her chest, a stark reminder of the complexities they navigated together. The room felt charged, the borderline between past and future blurred, and she understood the moment for what it was: a threshold. "What if we just figured this out as we go?" Tom suggested, the hope in his voice edged with desperation. It was a suggestion that ignited a familiar flicker of conflict within Jamie. The idea of a loose arrangement, a casual entanglement, was tempting. Yet, a deeper instinct warned her against backpedaling into familiar territory. "No," she replied firmly, holding back the flood of conflicting emotions. "We can't just drift and hope for the best. I need clarity, structure." As she spoke, Jamie realized her own evolving momentum. The fear of the unknown was real, but it was outweighed by the promise of discovering her own potential. She was no longer the girl who followed predefined pathways, she was capable of navigating uncharted waters. With the realization crystallizing inside her, confidence surged, a current ready to propel her forward. "I want you to understand," she continued, "this journey isn't just for me, it's for both of us. We need to be honest about what we can offer each other, and I can't compromise on my aspirations." Tom shifted in his seat, absorbing her words. "I know you want to grow, Jamie, and I want that for you, too." His vulnerability, laid bare, pushed Jamie to confront the impact of her own desires on their relationship. "What if I go after my dreams and decide what's best for me, and that means we end?" She pressed, her question hanging in the air with a weight Jamie hadn't anticipated. Facing that possibility felt like standing at the edge of a precipice, a mixture of fear and exhilaration coursing through her veins. I want you to thrive, Jamie," he stammered, but even as he said it, Jamie sensed a flicker of hesitation behind his supportive exterior. "Just promise me that if it comes to that, you won't forget what we shared." The memories of their shared history, the laughter, the tenderness, and even the moments of conflict bubbled to the surface, threatening to drown her in uncertainty. Yet, the sentiment of which he spoke was no longer her foundation, it was simply part of her narrative. "I can't promise what I don't yet know," she responded with poignant clarity. "But I can promise to embrace what lies ahead, to honor this experience by not letting it limit me." A silence settled between them, thick with emotion. In that stillness, Jamie felt a stir of determination. Tom's gaze might have lingered on the specter of their past, but Jamie envisioned a future marked by her own achievements and aspirations. "I'm more than who I was with you," she stated, her voice steadier, each word anchoring her resolve. "And that's what matters now." With each revelation, Jamie peeled back layers of doubt that had long clouded her vision, allowing space for clarity and ambition to emerge. In confronting these issues openly with Tom, she revealed aspects of herself she had buried amid their complicated history. The previous notion of dependency began to dissolve as she found strength in her independence. But amidst her undeniable growth, an unsettling flicker of doubt remained. Could she truly disentangle from their shared past? And then, a thought struck, one that ignited a new ember of resolve. What if her transformation became a catalyst for deeper change, not just for herself but for Tom too? Perhaps, in redefining her trajectory, a path back to understanding and support could emerge. "Let us reconvene in a month," Jamie proposed, her heart pounding at the vulnerability of that decision. "Let us take time to consider who we are now. I want to see where my career takes me, and I hope you'll find space to explore your own path, too." A sense of mutual respect blossomed in that proposition, and with it, the possibility of facing whatever came next, whether together or apart. As Tom considered her words, Jamie's mind flared with a rush of thoughts. This was the first step towards embracing a future where she could thrive independently, yet it left an unsettling question lingering. Would this venture into self-discovery illuminate a better understanding between them, or would it ultimately reveal that their paths were meant to diverge more drastically than she had anticipated? The cafe's ambient noise faded as she awaited Tom's response, each second stretching like an eternity. The moment before his reply held all the potential of transformation both for herself and for the relationship she had long debated. An uncertain future lay ahead, palpable and waiting. The next pivotal decision loomed on her horizon, and Jamie felt the edges of her narrative expanding, ready for whatever shape her story would take next. Jamie stepped out of the cafe, the cold air greeting her like a stark reality after the heavy warmth of their conversation. The clarity she had sought was there, but it stirred mixed emotions within her, excitement tinged with fear. Each step along the bustling sidewalk released an echo of determination with every rhythm of her heart. She was done waiting for permission to pursue her dreams, but the threads of doubt still coiled tightly in her mind. As she wound her way through the throngs of people, Jamie pondered the initial stages of her career ambitions. The freelance design business she had envisioned felt both thrilling and daunting. How was she to juggle the demands of her aspirations while navigating this complicated emotional arena with Tom? With every twist and turn, she felt compelled to confront the self-imposed barriers that had stifled her creativity for so long. It had become clear that this wasn't just about accomplishing her career goals, it was about rediscovering herself outside the confines of their relationship. What if this new direction shifted the dynamic between them altogether? Arriving home, she felt the weight of a familiar clutter surrounding her. Old sketches, half-finished projects, and lingering remnants of indecision filled her space. The sight sparked a fire within her, pushing her into action. She began sorting through the mess, each item igniting memories of her artistic aspirations. This was more than mere organization, it was an act of reclaiming her identity. In the process, Jamie stumbled upon her old portfolio, filled with designs she had crafted with enthusiasm. She sat down, the familiar murmurs of inspiration creeping back in. As she flipped through the pages, she felt something shift within her, a burgeoning resolve to build a platform that celebrated her gifts. This was her creative rebirth. The hours rolled past as she immersed herself in the work. Ideas flowed like water, untethered by the chains of doubt that had held her back. She began mapping out plans, setting deadlines, and identifying potential clients she could reach out to. With each stroke of her pen, she was etching her future, and it felt freeing. But, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a shadow of concern crept in again. Would Tom understand this evolution? Would he see her pursuits as a direct step away from their shared narrative? The thought unsettled her, but Jamie swiftly shook it off. This wasn't about him, it was about honoring her journey. That evening, she drafted an email to potential clients, her pulse racing as she typed out her intentions. In that moment, her fingers flew across the keyboard, and she realized the woman before them was unstoppable. As she clicked send, an exhilarating wave of courage washed over her. The vibrant pulse of New York City illuminated her tiny apartment, and Jamie felt a sense of empowerment surge from within. She was staking her claim in a world she was ready to embrace with open arms. Yet, somewhere in the depths of her mind lingered a nagging question that could not be ignored. As she settled into bed, Jamie's thoughts intertwined with fleeting notions of what lay ahead. Would the pursuit of her new aspirations bring her closer to Tom, or would it become a fissure between them that could not be mended? She closed her eyes, embracing the dawn of an empowered self. Yet, uncertainty darted alongside her newfound strength. Somewhere, amidst the excitement, lay the haunting query, what if in dislodging herself from their shared past, she inadvertently jeopardized the very future she yearned to redefine? Just as sleep began to claim her, Jamie made a mental note she needed to check in with Tom about his own path. Her heart raced at the thought of their next conversation, the potential for confrontation and growth swirling together. Little did she know, the upcoming weeks would be riddled with unexpected tests of resilience, a reality that would eclipse everything she had prepared for. The horizon was unfolding, but was she truly ready for what it promised? Morning light spilled through the window, spilling onto Jamie's face like a delicate brushstroke. She awoke to a world that felt slightly altered, each beam of sunlight serving as a reminder of her newfound resolve. Despite the remnants of uncertainty lingering in her mind, today was a new canvas, one she was determined to fill with her own colors. As she moved through her morning routine, Jamie felt a sense of purpose invigorating her actions. The remnants of her old life lingered in the corners of her mind, but they did not weigh her down as they once had. They were merely whispers of a journey that had led her here, to this moment of empowerment. Determined to move forward, Jamie grabbed her phone and opened her email. She had received a response from one of her potential clients, a boutique that aligned with her aesthetic vision. The thrill of validation surged within her. They wanted to schedule a meeting. The prospect of this meeting exhilarated her but also churned an unsettling anxiety in her gut. She would be stepping into the world as a freelancer, fully exposed and accountable for her creative vision. It was exhilarating yet terrifying. Staring back at her in the reflection of the window was a face etched with both excitement and fear, a woman on the precipice of transformation. To prepare for the meeting, she pulled up her old portfolio, reworking it with a fresh eye. Each piece served not just as a reminder of her skills but as a testament to her evolution. With every revision, her confidence flourished. She was no longer the hesitant designer but a professional ready to take ownership of her craft. In the midst of her preparations, thoughts of Tom crept back into her mind. Their upcoming conversation weighed heavily on her, a blend of curiosity and apprehension swirling within. Would he appreciate her growth? Would he empathize with her need for independence? Or would he feel threatened by the distance her aspirations were creating between them? With a deep breath, Jamie decided to call him. She needed to harness her courage and confront this chapter of their lives with honesty. "Hey, Jamie." His voice on the other end was warm and inviting, dissolving her initial hesitation. "How are you?" "I'm good," she replied, her voice steady despite the quivers of anxiety. "I wanted to talk about something important." After a few moments of small talk, she plunged into the heart of her concerns: her artistic journey, her commitment to independence, and the dreams she wanted to chase. As she spoke, she noticed her own hesitations melting away. This was her truth, and voicing it felt like shedding layers of skin that had dulled her for too long. "Wow, I didn't know you felt that way," Tom responded, the sincerity apparent in his tone. "I want you to be happy and succeed. Your art means a lot to you, and I can't stand in the way of that." Relief washed over her, quickly followed by new questions. If he was supportive now, would that continue? There was a great leap forward, but what about the pits of doubt that could re-emerge? They decided to meet later that week, which brought both hope and threads of unease. As they hung up, Jamie felt an unsettling mix of satisfaction and apprehension. She had shared a part of her heart, but the road ahead remained uncertain. That evening, she returned to her workspace, feeling the buzz of urgency to finalize her presentation. Each design she refined signified not only a project but a life choice, one that would challenge not just her career, but her very identity. She paused, a nagging thought pulsing in the back of her mind. What if this newfound momentum cast shadows on her relationship with Tom? Would her independence forge a path to newfound closeness, or would it drive a wedge? In the silence of her apartment, Jamie felt a pressure building within. The struggle for growth often demanded personal sacrifices, but she could not ignore the reality that awaited. The stakes were high, and as she pulled out a blank sheet of paper to brainstorm ideas for her meeting, an urgency settled deep within her. What truths would emerge on that fateful day? Little did she know, confronting her fears would unearth revelations that tested the boundary between ambition and love. Jamie spent the following days in a frenetic whirl, alternating between exhilaration and anxiety as the meeting approached. With each passing hour, anticipation entwined with doubt, a binding grip that fueled her creative spirit but also threatened to strangle it. As she meticulously honed her portfolio, her workspace transformed from a mere room into a sanctuary, a testament to her desires and aspirations. Past sketches and half-finished projects lined the walls, like battle flags from an earlier struggle, and now, they bore witness to a new resolve. She was determined to reshape her narrative, turning every critique into an opportunity for growth, every moment of hesitation into a leap toward her future. On the day of the meeting, Jamie slipped into a fitted blazer, something she had always deemed too formal but believed now represented the professional she envisioned herself to be. She caught her reflection in the mirror, and for the first time, the woman staring back seemed prepared, even capable. Yet, beneath the polished surface, a current of doubt twisted within. Would her aesthetic resonate with the boutique's vision? Would they see her worth? The reminder of her discussion with Tom reverberated in her mind, an echo of affirmation that kindled the flickering flame of her confidence. Yet, what if their support was conditional? What if proving her independence came at a steep personal cost? She pushed these uninvited thoughts aside as she grabbed her portfolio. Its weight felt reassuring, like a shield against potential rejection. Arriving at the boutique, she was met with vibrant displays that dazzled her senses. A representative welcomed her, her demeanor oozing professionalism, which only amplified Jamie's uneasiness. "Let us see what you've got," the woman said, her expression neutral yet expectant. Jamie opened her portfolio, revealing the carefully curated designs she had adapted. As she spoke, she allowed her passion to flow, describing her inspiration, her vision, and the stories behind each piece. The fear began to dissipate, replaced by a visceral connection to her work that seemed to captivate even the stoic representative before her. To her surprise, the conversation unfolded organically, leading her to discuss not only her designs but the principles underpinning her creative journey. In this light, her struggles of past insecurities morphed into tales of resilience. Each word she uttered became a brushstroke that painted a vivid picture of her evolution. As she concluded and awaited feedback, Jamie felt a tremor of hope coursing through her. The silence from the boutique seemed eternal, yet the representative leaned forward to deliver a surprising response. "Your work is impressive, Jamie. I see a clear sense of identity woven into your designs. We'd like to collaborate." Surprise surged through Jamie, a profound sense of validation amplifying her earlier confidence. This wasn't merely an endorsement of her talent, it was a recognition of her transformation. As they discussed next steps, Jamie's mind still danced with the shadows of her conversation with Tom. Could her burgeoning career coexist with her personal life, or would they become disparate entities? The meeting concluded, leaving Jamie with a rush of elation, only to be tempered by a sudden realization: she was walking a tightrope, balancing her independence against the fragility of her romantic relationship. She stepped outside into the bustling street, her heart racing with triumph and trepidation. The path ahead now appeared layered with possibility, yet uncertainty loomed about how she could maintain her newfound identity while nurturing intimacy with Tom. As she pulled out her phone to text him about the meeting, a wave of self-doubt unfurled within. Would he still support her progress as she spiraled deeper into her professional pursuits? With her pulse quickening, she contemplated the gravity of her next step. Could the balance between passion and love create harmony, or would it unravel the fabric of her ambitions? The time had come to confront the intertwining fates of her heart and her career. Jamie stood at a pivotal intersection of her life, where her professional ambitions and her personal heartache collided, demanding resolution. With the fresh collaboration blossoming in her creative life and the unresolved complexities of her relationship with Tom, she recognized that she was no longer a victim of circumstances, but an architect of her own future. The exhilaration from her meeting at the boutique pulsed through her veins, yet it was accompanied by the enduring question of what lay ahead with Tom. How could she nurture her career while navigating their complicated emotional terrain? Returning home, she felt a swell of determination. This was the moment to not only pursue her artistic dreams but to also reclaim her narrative with Tom. That evening, she prepared herself for what would be a defining conversation, crafting her thoughts with precision. Jamie wanted to communicate the significance of her artistic journey, not as a departure from their relationship but as a necessary component that could coexist with love. She wanted to share the exhilaration of her designs, the validation she had received, and the fuel of ambition lighting her path ahead. When Tom arrived, Jamie noted the warm smile he wore, though it carried an undercurrent of uncertainty. They settled into her living room, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken tensions. After exchanging pleasantries, Jamie took a deep breath, her confidence solidifying with every word she spoke. "Tom," she began, "I need you to understand that my journey as a designer is vital to who I am now. It's what empowers me, reignites my spirit, and, honestly, it opens doors I never thought possible." Tom's brow furrowed, the weight of her declaration settling heavily between them. I support you, Jamie. I want to see you thrive, he said, though tinged with a hint of vulnerability. But what does that mean for us? Each question poised between them felt monumental, charged with the energies of their past and the possibilities of their future. Jamie sifted through her thoughts, seeking the right balance between ambition and love. It means we get to redefine what we want together. I'm not seeking to replace our history but to evolve from it. I want us to have a future where we both flourish. As she articulated her desires, Jamie felt the barriers she had erected crumbling, revealing authenticity in her self-expression. She was no longer that girl bound by the shadows of betrayal. Instead, she was a woman on the brink of re-establishing herself, leveraged by her own strength and ambition. Tom breathed deeply, absorbing her words. I see you, Jamie, but what if my path takes me in a different direction? His vulnerability struck a chord within her. Jamie realized that their paths might diverge, yet that divergence could lead to not just personal fulfillment but a relationship that thrived on mutual respect and independence. Then let us embrace that reality, she encouraged, feeling emboldened by her own clarity. It won't be easy, but respecting each other's journeys might redefine who we are and what we mean to one another. In that moment, the fullness of their transformation began to crystallize. Tom's expression shifted as he processed her determination, his admiration reflecting back at her like a mirror. I want to be part of your journey, Jamie. But I need to find my own voice in this too. Jamie nodded, recognizing the complex layering of their individual narratives. That's the point, she said resolutely. We can support one another while carving out our own identities. It's not about choosing one over the other, it's about discovery. The conversation lingered in the air like the last rays of sunset, filled with a shared understanding that felt liberating. They were both ready to venture into unknown territory both as individuals and as an evolving unit. The realization that they could partake in each other's growth without losing themselves ignited a flicker of hope that was nearly palpable. As the evening deepened, their dialogue transformed into a mutual exploration of aspirations and dreams, Tom expressing his own ambitions, the frustrations that had simmered beyond Jamie's betrayal, and the realizations that came from loneliness. The connection they had forged through vulnerability heightened the air of possibility surrounding them. Before they parted, Jamie leaned in closer, her heart racing as she gently touched his hand. Let us keep checking in with each other. This is just the beginning, and I want us both to feel secure in our choices. Tom's fingers wrapped around hers, a new connection forming a bond rooted in trust and respect, no longer intertwined with previous betrayal. I want that too, he affirmed, eyes filled with newfound promise. With goodbyes exchanged, Jamie closed the door behind him, a sense of achievement washing over her. This encounter had crystallized her journey not only as an artist but as a woman learning to stand confidently in her own skin. Embracing independence didn't mean cutting ties, it meant replacing dependency with appreciation for the paths they carved, both together and apart. In the days that followed, Jamie channeled her emotional growth into her work. She embraced each challenge as an opportunity for expansion. Her designs began to reflect not just her aesthetic vision but her journey of resilience. Clients began to emerge, her confidence radiating in every meeting. The breakthrough at the boutique paved the way for a flourishing network, transforming her dreams into reality. Amidst this surge of momentum, she kept her commitment to Tom alive, ensuring that the communication they had initiated remained a constant. Their evolving relationship became a source of support rather than an anchor, allowing both of them to flourish side by side and independent. As the months unfolded, a tangible shift occurred in her life. The projects she had poured her heart into were not only being recognized but celebrated. Jamie now stood as a force of creative rebirth, an artist fueled by passion and resilience. This was it. She had conquered her past, stepped boldly into her future, and with each accomplishment, her sense of self solidified. Every client she secured, every design put out, served as an affirmation of her worth. She was deserving of success. Jamie's life, once marred by betrayal, had transformed into a canvas painted with ambition and tenacity. She wasn't merely healing, she had reconstructed her identity. Amidst all of this, a quiet pride settled into her heart, resilience rooted in authenticity. Recently successful, she now stood tall, her narrative glowing brighter than it ever had, embodying strength and independence. This was her moment, the culmination of everything she had worked for, and she was undeniably alive in it. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to spread this message. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.